Hi, today I'm going to show you how to animate and port your HeroForge models to Tabletop Simulator on Steam. Um, just first off, as a disclosure, if I could talk, um, do not upload these on the Steam Workshop if you can avoid it. And if you're going to, make sure you set it to friends only or set it to private. Otherwise, HeroForge will send you a DMCA. You will have to take the model pack down, and all of the work that you will have done will be basically worth nothing. So yeah, the first thing you're going to want to do is once you're done with your model, after you've colored it and everything, you're going to go down here to buy, um, and you're going to send HeroForge money, and they're going to send you a model that is not legally yours. But yeah, that's beside the point. From there, you're going to go to Account, Digital Downloads, and you're going to click Download on this model. This one I made a few days ago. I guess it was a couple weeks ago now, and I haven't had a chance to animate it because of the whole DMCA debacle. But you're going to click download. You're going to wait a second. You're going to get a zip file. From there, you're going to put this somewhere where you can find it easily. Alright, so you have your Unity 3D file put somewhere where you know exactly where it's at. Next step you're going to want to do is you're going to want to go to the link in the description to this GitHub site. This is a tool called UTinyRipper. Basically allows you to open Unity 3D files and export the various folder structures inside. You're just going to click download now, download it from SourceForge, get it all set up somewhere. For me, it's just in my 3D modeling folder in here. And what you're going to do is you're going to put your Unity 3D file in here. I already have it in there, but I'll replace it. Then you're going to open up the application. Currently, right now, this is my Tundra model. These are all the other ones that I've done. You're going to click and drag here, and you're going to click Export. You're going to pick a folder where you can easily find the files that it exports. I just have an unpacked folder set up. Click OK, and you're going to open the folder. You see here that there's now a folder called tundra.unity3d. I'm going to open this up. You're going to open up Assets, and here is all of the HeroForge assets that you're going to need going forward. You have your textures, you have mesh. Right now this is set to a .asset file. That's okay. We'll cover that in just a second, how you can import that into Blender. And then these three folders don't really matter. So the next step in the long, arduous process of animating and converting the models for Tabletop Simulator is going to be downloading Unity. Tabletop Simulator runs on Unity, which is why generally all of the modding you're going to do for Tabletop Simulator is going to be through Unity. Essentially, you're going to click on Get Started, you'll make an account, etc., etc. You're going to click Individual. I use the personal version. You'll download Unity Hub, get it all set up. So let me go ahead and get that open real quick. After Unity Hub opens up, what you're going to see, you'll actually have no projects here. So you're just going to click New. You're going to set a project name. So we'll do Tabletop Tutorial. Location doesn't necessarily matter. And you're going to click Create. I'm going to go ahead and close this real quick. And then you're going to wait for your computer to have a stroke while Unity loads. Generally, Unity takes a minute to load just because it's a full 3D game making program. I highly recommend if you're going to make a game making it in Unity, it's very user-friendly. I'm just now learning it myself, really, but going through this tabletop animation process has actually really taught me a lot. Now that Unity is open, we can start converting the model into a file that Blender can actually manipulate. The first thing you're going to want to do, though, is you're going to click on Window. You're going to go to Package Manager, and you're going to scroll around, wait for this to load until you find FBX Importer, and you're going to click Install right down here. I already have it installed. But essentially what this does is it's going to convert the asset file into an FBX, which Blender can read. Once you've done that, you can close that. You're going to reopen up your mesh folder within your Unity 3D folder. You're going to drag this down. You're going to drag down the default.asset into the work folder, drag the default asset into the play folder. You're going to right click on default within the hierarchy, and you're going to export to FBX. We're going to rename this Tundra.fbx because that's what the model's name is. And the only other thing you need to change is the export format. Make sure this is set to binary and not ASC2. Blender can't read that for whatever reason. Don't know why, but from there we're just going to click export. I already have it on the desktop, but I'll overwrite it. From here we can minimize Unity, and on your desktop you should now have an FBX file that you can open up with Windows 3D Viewer, and you can look at your model in all of its sideways glory. From there we're going to go install Blender. Blender is a free 3D modeling program. It's awesome. Within Blender you can, like I said, 3D model, you can render things, and you can actually animate models as well. I use Blender 2.9. A lot of people like to use older versions of Blender because they like how it's structured, but I actually like the newer version more. You're going to click download Blender 2.9 from the main website. Blender will give you a compliment because they're fantastic. It's going to download. You're just going to go through the installation process just like anything else. And you're going to open up Blender, and you'll have a blank project to start working with. Alright, so now you have Blender open for the first time. You're going to have a little splash screen here, and you're going to click just behind that. And you're going to be looking at both a cube, a camera, and a light. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to hit A, so it selects everything. And then you're going to hit delete, and it's going to delete everything. From here, we're going to import our model, so we're going to go to File, Import, FBX. You're going to navigate to wherever your FBX file is, and you're going to double click. And if we scroll out, we see that we have our model. I'm not going to go super in depth with the Blender tutorials just because there's tons out there. And it's a really good thing to learn anyways, but we're going to go ahead and set our model up so we're actually looking at it in the face. So we're going to change this rotation to 0. The Z-axis rotation we're going to set to 180. And now we are looking at Tundra. From here, this model is gigantic, so we're going to scale it down a lot. And from here, you're just going to basically add a skeleton. I'm going to link a separate video in the tutorial that I used. It's right here from ChristopherYonge. This video it's about a half-hour long. I recommend watching the entire thing. Watch it several times. Watch it while you're doing things. Watch it while you're making the skeleton. It'll help tremendously. Super, super, super useful video. Like I said, it'll be linked in the description, but I highly recommend watching through this entire thing to create the skeleton for your model. Okay, so you watched the video. You've merged the skeleton with the model. You can see here that I've made a relatively simple skeleton for Tundra. Generally, I don't have the feet of my model move. If you want to do that, it's a little more complex. But as you can see, there's some janky stuff that's happened. The skull here has lost his bottom jaw. If I zoom in on Tundra's face, it's a bit contorted in a way that I don't want. The axe has gotten a bit janky. His hand looks kind of broken. And what this boils down to is weight painting. What weight painting does is it tells Blender which parts of the model to move when you move which parts of the skeleton. So to tweak this, what we're going to do is we're going to click on the model itself, not the skeleton. Up here on the drop-down menu, you're going to swap to Weight Paint. And what you can see is that the entire model is turned blue except for a few spots. If we come down here to the bottom right, and click on this little green Dorito triangle looking thing, you can see that we have what's called vertex groups. Now for each vertex group, we're going to paint the parts of the model that we want to move. So ignore my weird naming conventions, but for the head, for example, anything that's colored not blue will move. Uh, so we want the entire hood to move with the head. So we would start painting the head red. Um, Now up here you have drop-down menus for add, subtract, blend, whatever. I tend to just play with add and subtract. And if you want a more accurate weight paint, go ahead and swap to edit mode. And what you're going to do is you're going to click and drag, you're going to hold shift, and you're going to click and drag over the hood. And then you're going to hit control and L. What that'll do is that'll select the entire hood. The way this works is Blender is basically grabbing the vertices that are directly connected. So now we want the head to actually move. So we're going to do the same thing with that. We're going to grab this eyebrow and this eye. We're going to hit Control L, and now we have the entire head selected. We probably want this little neck scarf thing to move too, so we'll grab that. Now we have the head selected as well as the arms. We're going to swap back to weight paint. We're going to click on this vertex selection. What that'll do is now the things that you selected in edit mode are the only things that you're going to be able to weight paint in the weight paint mode. So as you can see here, the torso isn't getting painted as we paint right here, just because we don't have it selected. So we're going to go ahead and paint the entire head. We're going to go to subtract again to fix the arm because we don't want the arm to move when the head moves. We want them to move separately. And when we go back into pose mode now, we should see that the head is the only thing that moves when we twist it. Go ahead and make sure that that's the case for everything. So how do we fix this jankiness down here at the bottom with the base that is now tilted? We're going to hop back into weight paint mode. We're going to deselect vertice mode. And basically you just want to make sure that anything you don't want to move at all is blue. So, sorry, don't do that. You want the feet to stay red, more or less, because they're their own thing. We're going to go ahead and paint this jaw so that it moves closer. We'll fix the katanas and whatnot in just a second. But you want to make sure that none of this is red for any of the weight paints. So you're going to more or less just go through all the different vertices, or all the different vertex groups, and something eventually will be painted where it shouldn't be. Because when you set Blender to use automatic weights, it doesn't know exactly how you want things to be done. So yeah, you can see it here that this jaw is yellow for some reason, and as we paint this blue again, it'll actually go back to where it's supposed to be. And as we kind of do this with the entire base, it'll do the same thing and go to its resting position again. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing with this katana, sheet blade. And you're more or less just going to go through each vertex group, make sure everything is set correctly how you want it. That way you don't have any janky stuff. So once you have your model weight painted and everything moves as it should, you know, you can turn the head, you can move the arm, move the other arm. You're going now, and now comes the actual fun part. So you're going to go from layout to animation. Go ahead and make sure you save your work often as well. You're going to hop over to the animation tab, make sure you're in pose mode. The first thing I like to do whenever I start a new animation for a new character is I'll hit A to select every bone. You're going to hit I on your keyboard while your mouse is in this window, and you click location and rotation. There are a ton of animation tutorials out there for Blender. I've watched quite a few of them. And generally your animation style is completely up to you. You could theoretically even motion cap for your models if you wanted to. But for now we'll just kind of set up a generic breathing animation. So we're going to click on the spine. And what you have down here is basically a timeline of movements. Each of these dots is what's called a keyframe. And those are specific frames in which the model moves. So here at the first frame, we have the model sitting in his default position. If we go ahead and skip to 30, what we're going to do is we're going to hit G, and that allows you to move bones. I'm going to hit Z, that way it only moves up and down, and I'm just going to move it down just a touch, about there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit I again, and location and rotation. And what you can see is that puts another keyframe here. And if we zoom back, you can see that now on the left side here, there's an animation of him breathing in, or breathing down. Now from here, what I like to do is you can actually right click and you can duplicate keyframes. What you can see is now I have some more yellow dots to manipulate. So I want him breathing in and out every 30 frames. So I'm going to go ahead and put this at 60. And now if I play this from the start, see, he breathes in, breathes out. And you can just kind of duplicate these for your generic breathing animation. I like to do it, this is the first thing I like to do before I do any other fancy animations. So it's at 120, so now it needs to be at 150 and 180. Duplicate again. We're going to go to 110 now. And again. So now we run into the issue where, as you can see, he breathes up, and then he stays that way for a minute before he breathes again. We want this to be a smooth looping animation. So we need to extend the timeline to 330. So all we're going to do that is we're going to come over here where it says end. We're going to type in 330. And he's breathing up on this animation. So we're going to do breathe down. On the first animation, he is in the up position. So we're actually going to extend this to 360. We're going to take this up animation and put it at the end, and as you can see now, it's a smooth loop. So, once you have an animation that you like for your model, we're actually almost done. The next thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to open up the link in the description that'll take you to this GitHub page for the Tabletop Modding Master. So what you're going to do is we're basically going to follow this tutorial to an extent. Like I said, this is all going to be in the description. It'll be on the GitHub page. But you're going to download this, and you're going to reopen Unity. So we'll open up Unity Hub. And once you follow the installation instructions, you'll actually have a new thing here called Tabletop Modding Master. And we're going to go ahead and open that up. So once you have Unity open, you're going to be graded into something like this. It's going to be a little different than the other Unity window we had open before. It's going to be a lot brighter. That's because it's an older version of Unity and it's not running dark mode. The first thing you're going to want to do is create work folders. As you can see here, I have work folders for all of the animated models I've done lately. Really wish I had done this earlier because it makes going back and editing stuff a lot easier. But you're going to right click and create a new folder. I'm going to name it Tundra because that's the character we're doing. And you're going to browse to wherever your saved blend file is. Mine is on my desktop. You'll see that I have tundra.blend here. All you're going to do is you're going to click and drag it straight into the folder. And you can see here that we now have something here. Ignore the broken textures. That happens from time to time. It's not an issue at all whatsoever. But if we click play here, we can see that we have our animated model in Unity now. Now we want our model's animation to loop, so we're going to go ahead and check loop time on the right side here. Scroll down, click apply, wait for Unity to figure out what it's doing, and now we have a looping animation. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to click and drag our model here into the play thing. If you click on camera, what I like to do is I like to get my camera oriented so that it's actually looking at the model. So what we're going to do is we're going to click and move this here a little bit. You can actually move the camera as well. So we're going to click and move this around here. You can see in the viewport it is moving exactly where we're looking. More or less, anytime we hit play, it'll actually give us an idea of what our model is going to kind of look like. The lighting in Tabletop's a little different than the lighting here, but as you can see, our model's not moving. So the next thing we're going to want to do is within the folder down here again, you're going to right click, you're going to create an animation controller, and we're going to go ahead and name it Tundra Controller. If we double click on this, we can see that we end up in kind of an editor here. Excuse me for not knowing the proper terminology. But if you right click again, it'll bring up a little subfolder or sub thing here. You're going to create state empty, and if you click on this, you'll see it brings up things for motion, speed, all kinds of things over here. We're going to right click on this little circle, and it's going to bring up a menu of different animations. So what we're looking for here, it should only have one of armature action, but because I have some other models in here, it's going to have all of them. So find the one that has the proper name, so Tundra, double click, and it should now be here under motion. If we go back to scene rather than animator, and we drag this Tundra controller, or your animation controller, up to your model within the hierarchy, that animation should now be applied to the model. So if we click play again, we can see that our model is now animated. Now, what about the broken textures? Well, if you go into your unpack folder, you see that you have a folder called Texture 2D. Double click this, open it up, and what you're going to do is you're going to select all of these textures in here, and you're going to click and drag them into the work folder. From here, if we click on Tundra, or your model, and you drag that texture, it's now going to apply the texture. If you click on it again, you'll see that we now have a model shader down here on the right side under the inspector. If we click the little arrow, it'll bring up a whole bunch of different sliders and options. So now we want to just go through and apply each texture. So this is the metal texture. We're going to click on our model again. We're going to click and drag metal to where it says metallic. As you can see now, we can adjust the shininess of the metal on him. I tend to leave mine maxed out. I like really shiny metals. It looks really cool. Normal map. Drag over the normal map. You are going to get an error that says it's not marked as normal map. If you just click fix now, that'll fix it. And then we have the occlusion. And from here, if we click play again, we can now see that we have a textured animated model. From here, you can either skip kind of to the end of the tutorial where I show you how to import it into Tabletop, or we have some more advanced stuff we can check out too. So if you right click on the diffuse texture and you go to show and explore, you can actually edit this. So let's say you want to add some scars or some armor chinks. You can do that. If you right click it, you can open it with Photoshop, Paint.net, whatever, GIMP. I use Paint.net just because it's free, it's easy to use. I've been using it for a long time and I know what I'm doing. But as you can see here, we have a texture sheet now. So from here, you can just kind of edit it as you choose. So let's say, I don't know, this is going to be kind of a bad example. Let's say I want to add a scar down his right eye. So we start drawing some stuff. You know, you get a picture from online that is a scar. If you save it and hop back into Unity, we zoom in. You see now he has kind of some extra texture work here. So I'm going to do some extra texture work real quick on this model, and I'll be right back. So I've done some pretty basic texture work here. I went ahead and threw a scar on his right eye to match where the missing chunk is out of his eyebrow. Filled in his neck a little bit so it's not as visible, and also filled in the mask, as well as adding the Linquay badge on him and on his base. So let's say you want to add some cool magic effects as well. My character Tundra is a kineticist, so he has a spell called Shroud of Frost. More or less, you can go to the asset store here. If you click on asset store, it'll load up pretty slow. Go ahead and wait for that to load. And if you search, you can, let's say, we do ice. And what you're going to want to do is free assets unless you want to pay for it. And there are a ton of free cool effects. This cartoon effects pack has helped me a lot with a lot of the cool magic effects that my friends like on their models. Um, but I have an ice particle one that I like. Basically, you just click on it, click install. It'll bring up a few menus, and then it'll pop up down here within the project window. So for Shout of Frost, we're going to go ahead and use the Pinwheel Fantasy Effects stuff. And I believe it was Ice Spear 2. Nope, it was the other one. As you can see here, there's now this cool Ice Spear effect that comes up. Um, so what we're going to do is we're going to drag this around until it's roughly where we want it. If you click off of it, if you come over here to the hierarchy, you can just re-click it, and it'll show back up. But now on the right under the inspector, we have a whole bunch of options. So we want this effect to loop. So if we restart it, now we just have a whole bunch of ice spikes being created. We don't want that. That's way, way too many. So we're going to adjust the max particles to, let's say, 100. Still a bit much. Try 50. Still a bit much. 25. That looks pretty cool. So we're going to get this centered on the model now. And, you know, right now it's definitely way too big. It's kind of obnoxious. So all we're going to do is we're just going to change the scale to 0.5 for each one. You know, that looks a little better. So we'll try bumping it down to 0.25 maybe. So that looks okay. And more or less, we're going to get this placed on the model exactly where we want it. So I'm going to go ahead and tweak this a little bit. So it almost looks like it's coming out of his shoulder. That's still a bit obnoxious. Maybe 0.1. Ah, I know what I'm doing wrong. So with some particles, you actually do have to tweak some individual things. So here we have start size. So we're going to actually tweak that down to 0.25. And 0.25 for this again. Maybe not for that one. There we go. Every particle effect's going to be different on how you tweak it. I'm definitely no expert in Unity. I've just kind of learned a lot of this stuff through playing around, and that's kind of going to be how it is for you too. The more you play around with it, the better at it you'll get, and the more cool stuff you'll be able to do. But I kind of like that being on his shoulder just like that, so we'll leave it how it is. But now we want to attach it to the model. So what we're going to do is we're going to click the little down arrow on Tundra here. We're going to go to Armature, and we want this to be linked up to his left shoulder. So we're going to follow the left bone here. Sorry, that's actually going to be in the spine. So shoulder L, here it is. All we're going to do is we're going to click and drag this down to shoulder L. And now whenever that shoulder moves, the ice spike will move with it. So if we hit play, we see that that's now attached to the shoulder. And it doesn't look perfect by any means, but you can tweak it as you see fit. For the sake of the tutorial, we'll just leave it how it is now. But again, we're going to go back up to prefabs, where Tundra's at, right here. And again, this is a preference thing for me, but for the sake of when I DM, we like to be able to flip our models upside down if they're unconscious. That way it's easier to tell. So what you can actually do is you can edit the physics of the model itself as well. What you're going to do is you're going to come up here to Component. You're going to go to Physics, and I tend to use box colliders. From here, now in the inspector, you can go to Edit Collider, and you have this green box. What I like to do is I like to make it try to match the shape of the base as best as possible. So we'll just bring that down. Yeah, that looks pretty good. So now we are essentially done with Tundra to an extent. But we want to be able to control the particle effects as well. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to click Add Component, Asset Bundle Effects, and that'll bring up this whole new thing. We want this effect to be able to loop. So for element 0, you want the name to be standard because we want the model to not be using it by default. Particle size we want to set to 1 because there is one particle system in effect. And we're going to click and drag Ice Spear right over to the particles. We're actually not going to do that because that's standard. I'm sorry. We want that to have no particle systems. Trigger effects, there are none, so we'll set that to 0. And again, we're going to add another component, Asset Bundle Effects. Looping effects 1. Now we want to name this one Shroud of Frost. If I could spell Frost. Particles. We want there to be one particle system. And now we want to click and drag the Ice Spear over there. There are no trigger effects here. And like I said, there are better tutorials for this too. If you follow the actual asset bundle tutorial, that'll be with the GitHub page. It'll go into this in a little more detail. But we're going to call that good on our model for right now. Now that we have a way to control it inside Tabletop, what you're going to want to do is up here where it says your model's name, you're going to click and drag this down back into the work folder. And you're going to create a new original prefab. So now we have our model here, and we have an option for Asset Bundle. If we click None and click New, you're not going to be able to type for whatever... Oh, wow, I'm actually able to type for once. That's crazy. But you're going to type in what you want the Asset Bundle's name to be, so we'll do Tundra Animated, and hit Enter. Now this has an assigned name that we'll be able to see in Steam inside Tabletop when we load it up. So we're going to right-click on this, and we're going to build asset bundles. This generally tends to take a second to do, depending on how much stuff you got going on. If you have more than one prefab in here, it'll actually build all of them at once, which is neat. So if you're doing multiple models at once, you can save some time that way. But more or less, just wait for this to finish building, and then I will see you guys. Now we have Tabletop loaded. You can see that I loaded up the workshop page in which I uploaded all my models. Unfortunately, these aren't up for download as, like I said, if you upload animated or tweaked models to Steam, HeroForge will send you a DMCA, and you'll have to take everything down. But you want to get your new model added. All you're going to do is you're going to come up here to Objects, Components, Custom, and you'll have a little tab here called Asset Bundle. All you're going to do is you're going to click and drag this out. Under Main, you're going to click Browse Local Files. You're going to navigate to your Unity folder. Mine is in my F drive. If I go to Unity Hub, you should have a folder called Tabletop Simulator Modding Master. Asset Bundles. And you're going to look for the one that you just made. So we are looking for Tundra Animated. There it is. Double click. Upload it to the cloud. Upload. This is a figurine. We want it to be made out of metal. This is all up to you. The material more or less just kind of affects the sound that the object is going to make. It'll fall through the table while it loads, but if you come and grab it, you'll see now that we have our model animated, ready to go in Tabletop Simulator. He's doing the animations I made for him. He has all the cool textures. He has the custom scar over his eye. If we right-click, go to Looping Effect, he has the Shroud of Frost effect now, and he has ice coming out of his shoulder. From here, what you can do is go to Modding, Workshop Upload, Update Workshop, or no, you're going to update a new one. So for Workshop title, we'll do DMCA Forge. Workshop description, HeroForge models for friends only. I can't spell, don't worry about it. Throw a thumbnail on there, upload it, and make sure you set it to friends only or set it to private. That way only you or your friends can see it, only you or your friends can use the models, and HeroForge can't invade your privacy and say, hey, take those models down, they're our rights, you know, whatever. But hopefully this tutorial was useful to you guys. I look forward to seeing more animated models hopefully on the HeroForge subreddit. I posted a whole bunch of them before. They seem to get a lot of attention, and I hope you guys are able to make some cool stuff with this. But yeah, if you like the video, go ahead and throw me a like, sub if you want, whatever. Yeah, have a great day, guys. Thanks.